Alright, so I like the movie Need for Speed a lot. I've seen it many, many times, and after seeing it a lot now, I've realized it's still a pretty good movie, but it's not all that great. So let me explain. So whenever I see this movie, because when I look at the movie, there's little to no aspects of any of the Need for Speed video games in the movies at all. Like, yeah, there's cop chases, there's fast cars, and there's stunts and everything. But other than that, that's all I've kind of noticed throughout the movie and stuff like that. The storyline is pretty basic, and honestly, I think that's the main problem with this movie is the storyline. So pretty much, this guy Toby Marshall gets framed for manslaughter, then he goes to jail for 2 years, then basically drives down to San Diego or San Francisco in hopes of revenge to get back at the guy who actually killed the guy that he got framed for. And they kind of do some crazy stunts around the way, and there's a bounty put on him like halfway through. And to be honest, the characters in this movie aren't really that interesting. They don't really have a crazy any like backstories. And to be honest, my favorite character in the movie is Pete, but what sucks is because he fucking dies like 20 minutes into the movie, which is unfortunate because he was one of the best characters. But before I talk shit on this movie, I'll get to the good things first. Is one, they do this really cool like zoom in shot like twice throughout the movie where it kind of like zooms in and pans in. I don't know what like I don't know if there's a specific name for that shot, but it looks pretty cool. Also, I like how they view off the Mustang that they build in the movie. Honestly, if car manufacturers did this more often, they would sell so many more people on cars and everything. Like if you want to sell me on a car, just show me something like that, and I'll instantly buy that car. It looks really cool like that. Also, I do like how there is no CGI bullshit and there's no green screen. Everything that they do in this movie is 100% real and everything. But also, since this movie's budget wasn't as big as like a Fast and Furious type style movie, they used kit cars in this movie, whereas basically they build like replicas of the cars so they could build like 20 of the Mustangs and just fuck them up and shit like that and crash them as many times. But the thing is, when you notice that they're kit cars, you notice there's some kind of flaws when they're doing the stunt jump. Like the Mustang, when it flies over the grass on the highway, you see how the wheels change design, and also when the Bugatti gets smoked in the forest, you see that the wheels change from orange to black. So there's kind of little things like that you pick out, but aside from that, it's not that bad. But the thing is about Need for Speed is that the main problem with the story is that basically Toby goes to jail for 2 years, and they talk about this De Leon race, which is like the main race at the end of the movie. But the race, they talk about the race at the beginning of the movie like it's gonna happen like the next day. But the thing is, Toby goes to jail and gets framed for it, and then he goes to jail, and then he's in jail for 2 years. Then he comes back out, and the race is basically in like 2 days from now. So like, I don't know if they just waited. Okay, I guess we gotta wait till Toby's in jail. He's not technically in the race yet, but we're gonna make him be, which is kind of weird because they drive down to San Francisco from New York in hopes that Toby just magically makes a De Leon race, and Michael Keaton's character Monarch, he decides who goes in the race and not. But they basically drive down there, cause a bunch of stunts and stuff like that, and in hopes that like Monarch sees it and is like, oh, you know what, Toby Marshall, he's a worthy driver to be in the De Leon race. But I'm thinking is, what happens if he just decides not to pick Toby? Then you're just driving down there for like no reason at all. Also, the other thing I like about this movie is how Pete's vision that he says to Toby at the beginning of the movie comes true. When he says, he's like, I see you looking at a lighthouse and you're gonna win De Leon. And then it shows at the end of the movie. I think that was a really nice touch of the movie.
Toby, this is my vision. This is how I started winning De Leon. Beat Dino, take his car and win.
Now, the things that I hate about this movie. I don't know how, like, Dino just posts a picture of his car, of the Mustang and everything in hopes that, like, everyone's going to see it. But there's no, like, tracker on the Mustang that they explained at all or anything. So I don't know how these bounty hunter guys just randomly found Toby and the girl out in, like, Nevada or whatever. So that kind of doesn't really make any sense either. But then also the other thing that's kind of dumb is that when they're watching the races and stuff like that, how are they seeing this? Because when you look at the screen at the other side characters watching, all they're just seeing is a little blip on the map. You don't actually see like an in-dash camera of the car, so I don't know where they're getting these views from and stuff like that. And like I said before, I hate how there wasn't any other aspects of Need for Speed that like I can be like, oh yeah, I remember that from the video game. The only thing that I realized is that the names at the end of the movie, some of the characters have some really weird names like English Paul, the Gooch, Texas Mike, and that honestly kind of remembers me from like brings me back to like Need for Speed, because I remember always like the characters that you raced in those games, or like the AI always had random and weird names and stuff like that. So I guess like that's one kind of like Easter egg I've kind of noticed, but I think that's all that there is. You know, how cool would it have been if we had like a cameo from someone from the previous Need for Speed games? Like, imagine the cop that pulls up to Toby in Detroit and was like, "That's your Mustang, son." How cool would it have been if it was like Cross from like Need for Speed Carbon, and just shows up? Like, how cool would it have been? How cool would have that have been to have like a cameo like that?
Hey, guess who's back? Sit down! How you been?
But unfortunately, we didn't get that, and it kind of sucks, but it is what it is. And then also, this movie obviously clearly didn't get a sequel, because this movie came out in 2014. But then also, this movie is based off a video game, so you can't really make a movie series based off a video game. I mean, you can, but then it's like, I thought they would have, depending on like considering how like the end of like the story happened, but we never really got anything from that. There was no update of like a Need for Speed 2, and I guess since it didn't do as well as box office, I guess they maybe decided just to cancel it and like say like fuck it, we'll maybe try something down the road. But again, unfortunately, it's not going to happen right now. But overall, I think Need for Speed was a pretty good movie. There was just a lot of flaws, and I think it was just a lot of like, I think it had missed potential. Rather than making this whole racing at the end, I feel like they could have not necessarily ripped off of Hot Pursuit, but I think it would have been a cool storyline where you get like Dino, let's say he could have been a cop instead, and him and Toby had like used to be friends growing up, and then they had a rivalry. Then like Toby was an outlaw and Dino was like a cop and everything, and then it's all about like them like you know, are they really enemies, or like do they come together at the end? But overall, I think it was a pretty good movie. Just had a lot of failed potential, and it could have been a really good movie, but unfortunately just was not. So I think if I had to rate this movie, I think I'd give this a solid 7 out of 10. That's my take on it. Alright, that's my take on Need for Speed, so maybe I'll review some other car movie down the road. I'm thinking maybe either Born to Race, or I'm thinking, maybe it might do one of the Fast and Furious movies. I'm not too sure yet, but let me know in the comments if you guys want to see some more car stuff. But that's going to do it for this video. Catch you guys in the next one. Peace out.